way. On the AM, we're on AM 760, but you can also listen to us on Ustream.tv, Spreaker.com, and all the links to these shows are embedded in our website. So to go and get these live streams, just go to ThinkTechHawaii.com. And if you want to join the conversation, ask Mark a question, anything about Disney, he seems to be the expert, give us a call at 296-5467. He's laughing because he knows I'm right. It's 296-5467. And if you want to join us in our downtown studio, call Jay Fidel or email him at jay, that's J-A-Y, at fidel.com. That's Fidell.com. Well, just a little bit about Mark. He's got like this senior management background, and that's kind of what I got from your bio. So you worked a lot with entertainment, theme park, retail, .coms, high tech, and even video game industries, which is really fun. I bet you got a lot of work done working at a video game industry company, but your experience is also complemented by additional work in construction and space systems, space systems, really? Like in outer space?
Yeah, like satellites.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you're not just, you're kind of like a regular Leonardo da Vinci here. You're putting things in space and you're putting things on our screens from Disney. That's really cool.
I just have a short attention span, and after a couple of years, I start to, look for a new adventure, and that's the way my life has gone.
Well, and that's good because you stay fresh, right?
Yeah.
You keep staying fresh. And speaking of new adventures, we were talking earlier about this new website. Now, why don't you tell me a little bit about DisneyByMark.com?
Well, initially I had been thinking about sharing stories about my years at Disney, growing up and being very passionate about the Disney company as a whole, and growing up with Disneyland in my backyard. Mm-hmm. It was something that was very special to me, and of course, being an Imagineer, I took it very seriously. I took ownership of the things that I did, and had a passion to where, to this day, still pixie dust runs in the veins. Hmm. And
it's tough to get out of the carpet, though. I
well, yeah. Actually, when I left Disney to go to England to run this video game company, I tried to find a way of getting away from the mouse, and it was virtually impossible because every time I would get into a taxi, they realized I was a foreigner because I had this accent. And the first thing they would ask me is, have you been to Disneyland?
Oh, really?
And you'd see Mickey Mouse watches, Mickey Mouse T-shirts. There wasn't a single day that I was there that I wasn't reminded that I worked for the mouse. And after years of doing a lot of different projects, I thought it was time to come back and revisit it. A full 15 years after I left the company.
And so this Disney by Mark, this is your inspiration that you gathered after leaving Disney for some time. Now, I went to the website, and there's actually some pretty cool stuff on here. And this looks like it's what is Disney by Mark? It's a website just for Disney news, right?
Yeah, something that I found was really lacking. There's literally hundreds of like fan sites or blogs that people are doing that are associated with the Disney company in one way, especially on the theme park side, or merchandise, or their teen stars. There's a lot of these fan sites out, but no one was doing real Disney news. They're the largest media company in the world, with their fingers in every country, with dozens of business units, and I thought it would be
it'd be great to put a site that does it all, right? Yeah. And
that would be one-stop shopping.
And I learned something new today. So, Pluto's first words.
Yeah.
what is that? Pluto talks? I didn't know he talked.
Well, we try to put some trivia in besides the serious news of all the good things and the not so good things that Disney Corporation does. and with various announcements of openings and strategic alliances and the like. But we also want to make sure that, like a newspaper, we offer, fun things, fashion.
Fashion, Disney fashion.
Yeah.
My kid is covered in Disney fashion. In fact, both of them are. So.
Well, there's walkway fashion now too.
Really?
And
but tell me Pluto's first
yeah,
words.
yeah.
I'm dying here. What is Pluto's first words? When did it happen? What were they?
Well, there were, Pluto actually appeared in several cartoons before this one, and if you click on that, you'll see a graphic of
Pluto lying down. And
Pluto lying down, and what had happened was Mickey Mouse had accidentally shot him with a shotgun. They went hunting.
This is a different time, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was in the early 30s, and it was called the Moose Hunt, and Mickey was just so distraught, and he's lying over Pluto's body, who looks like he's dead, and he says, "What can I do? What can I do?" And
there's the picture for those of you on Ustream.tv. You can kind of see it on the camera. It's Mickey lying over Pluto. There's tears coming down his eyes, and Pluto is going to talk.
And so Pluto raises his head up and says, "Kiss me."
Oh my goodness. Well, that can be. So does he live? I guess he does.
Yes, he does live. He was like playing it up. He really wanted to get the sympathy.
It's not like Kenny, where he's back in the next episode of South Park.
No. But he only had one other speaking gig after that, and then they decided to keep him on, but keep him silent.
I noticed that Disney does have kind of this grand tradition of nonverbal characters, and they still continue it. Like they have I know in Tangled they have the horse and the chameleon. Those are the latest.
But they both have a dialogue that's conveyed through the characters without. Well, with the horse, it's the way he snorts, and whinnies, okay, and the look on the face. I mean, you can tell exactly what the horse is thinking. They don't need a voiceover talent to bring them to life. They are already there.
They just need animators' talent, right? And that's where you come in, right?
Well, no, I wasn't an animator at all. I was in the project management side of the house. You can have all these wonderful creative people, but if you have no organized plan and somebody to help walk them through, you just have chaos. And so Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney Imagineering, which was the group that I was part of, not only had wonderful artists, but architects and
it's an
designers and
country over there practically, isn't it? It's everything, every part of it, and they even need to manage the tadpoles, right? That was the other thing I saw on the website. That the tadpoles are taken over.
Go back up.
There we go. I'm looking on my tablet here because it's tablet friendly also.
Well, you see, it's breaking news, so it's up there in that category
breaking
right
news,
there.
Invasion of the Magic Kingdom tadpoles.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So tell me about that. What's going on there?
Well, you think you see everything. I've been to the Magic Kingdom of Walt Disney World dozens and dozens of times. And I'm just standing on the bridge over in the center of the park, and there's this meandering moat that goes around in front of the castle, in front of Tomorrowland and Frontierland. And I look down in the water, and I see all these black squiggly things. And then through the aid of my camera, was able to zoom in and realize that there were literally hundreds of very large tadpoles with their rear legs
they're
already
coming
developed.
out. Yeah, we're looking at the website.
And they're getting ready to mature to the point to where they'll all be coming out in mass onto those beautiful green grassy lawns, and wreaking havoc probably inside of attractions and restaurants.
Or, it gives the kids one more thing to chase around when they're at the park. Hey, grab a frog. See if you can catch it.
Well, now I know why so many of those big white birds with the big beaks were like hanging out. I think they knew there was going to be a frog invasion coming, and
They were saying mine,
they-
mine,
they-
mine.
I love those characters.
See, another example, perfect nonverbal character. Mine, mine.
Yeah, very good.
It's a lot of mine, but yeah, it looks like we're going to talk a little bit more about the news going on at Disney. Stay tuned. This is ThinkTech. We're live. We'll be back after the break. We're back, we're live, and you're listening to ThinkTech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress, here with Mark Hickson, and we're talking about Into the Looking Glass with Disney. But before we get back to the conversation, we have some announcements from our founder, Jay Fidel. Take it away, Jay.
Thank you, Attila. Well, you know, every month the ThinkTech and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association present a luncheon panel program of some import here at the Plaza Club in Pioneer Plaza. That's where our studio is, actually. And this month, on May 23rd, we're presenting the 2013 update on housing in Hawaii, Waking Up to the American Dream. And I'm working on this with Harry Saunders, who's the president and CEO of Castle and Cook Hawaii. We'll have economist Paul Brubaker. We'll have Tony Ching, the leader of the Hawaii Community Development Association, HCDA, and Stanford Carr, who's a local developer in town. You know, housing is the single most important asset and expensive asset in most of our lives, and the best macro indicator of the wealth of our community. Housing and housing projects have been problematic in Hawaii. Housing has been increasingly expensive and inaccessible, laden with taxes and permitting and construction challenges and delays. So we ask, what's the planning? Where's the promise? Where's the future for housing in Hawaii, and how are we doing this year? We'll cover those subjects and others about housing on May 23rd, a Thursday, here at the Plaza Club. So sign up at hvca.org. See you then. And thanks, Attila. Back to you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Jay. Well, we're here talking with Mark Hickson. The topic today is Into the Looking Glass with Disney. And I also have one more announcement. It's kind of a surprise. My son is 4 years old today. So
Hey!
all right. Happy birthday, Adam. We love you very much. And thanks for putting up with Dad's long hours. And we appreciate it. But so, Mark, we were talking about Disney and how some of the things they're changing with the industry. And over the break we were talking about, and I heard about this too, about how Disney has halted its production in Bangladesh, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Pakistan too, I think. So, you know, I also know that Disney is not the only one that that has their clothing manufactured in these places. It's to keep the cost down and to make it affordable for parents to go out and buy Mickey Mouse themed clothing for their children. So that is one angle of it. But why are they stopping the production in these places?
Well, first of all, the way Disney works is they just don't go out and find a factory and say, oh, we want to do things here. They have licensees, companies that have come to them and said, we would like to license your product, and we intend to make T-shirts out of it. And we intend to sell those T-shirts in Walmart. And you've been in Walmart and you've seen some Mickey Mouse T-shirts.
Okay.
Then there's also vendors who also are in that same role, but they're not licensees. But bottom line is this: Disney does not go out and just find a factory and say, oh, we're going to build something here or make something here.
That makes sense. It's for quality
It's up
control,
to the
right?
vendors, the licensees and the vendors to cut the contracts and go out and try to you know, produce the product. Now, it's usually their bottom line which drives where they're made. Okay, Disney is aware of where they're made, but Disney doesn't say, "Oh, please go to Pakistan and do it." Disney just says, "We want you to pay us this much for the use of the license."
And that's licensing 101, right? You don't
Right.
you come up with the brand, and then you have other people manufacture. You know, it's just like you can buy Angry Birds sheets and towels and everything else now. And was it Rovio or Ruvio is the manufacturer of Angry Birds? They're the ones.
Okay.
Who,
Yes. Yeah. They hold the license.
Rovio, yeah. So
Yeah.
they just send it out, and I don't even think they're a U.S. company. I think they're overseas. So
Well, you know, and there's so many different partnerships that they have across the world because they have product that they only sell in certain regions, and they're done by certain vendors that, let's just say, service Europe, okay? And all their distribution channels and everything like that are in Europe. They're not in South America. They'll go to a South American vendor and say, tap us into the business stream down there. So you potentially could have 10 different T-shirts with the same Mickey logo on it being produced in 10 different countries and being sold in 10 different regions of the world.
And so if you pull out production of Disney products, because I know it's not just Disney, it's Walmart, I think Esprit, there were like 5 or 6 others that all
Some
pulled
real
out.
big ones, yeah.
I mean, were they the ones that were floating the economies in these third world countries?
Well, that's a fair question, and unfortunately, I'm not into Bangladeshi economics. Bottom line is this: the production that Disney was doing in these countries was less than 1% of their worldwide production. That says that they're doing an awful lot of stuff elsewhere, and they really try to spread it out. But there's a fair amount done in China. Also, there's a fair amount of copyright infringement merchandise running around out there too.
Ah, that's right. I've seen that in Asia. Original copy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, original copy. So basically, they told their vendors and their licensees time to get out of these countries because of the issues that they're having, and it has a lot to do with the corporate commitment to the welfare of the people that are making the products, and also it's important PR. You don't want to be identified as a company that funds slave shops.
Well,
or unsafe working conditions, or
we were talking about Apple before the show. I mean, they have controversial
Yes.
manufacturing processes also. So it seems to me like it's unavoidable. Doesn't matter who you are, especially once you start stepping outside the United States, things change.
Well, IKEA had found that problem when they moved out of Sweden and Scandinavia and started moving into Russia and having production and stuff done in Eastern Europe. That's when they started running into some real issues with their supply chain and quality issues.
And does this have anything to do, the fact that they pulled out, does this have anything to do with the fact of that building collapse and those hundreds of people that died?
Well, actually, it has something to do with the tragedy that happened earlier, where people died in a big fire.
That was a few months ago,
all the doors were locked, and hundreds of people died in a factory in Bangladesh, and that's when Disney went, we can't let this continue, at least with our products being involved. So,
and that's not going to affect the cost of the consumer. It just makes the company feel a little bit better about how they're operating, right?
Well, it's with Disney, appearances are everything. You have to understand their corporate identity is something that is really precious. It's something that's been built up for dozens and dozens of years, and you just can't let it all go and lose your brand identity by being involved in shoddy business deals.
So is that what Disney really is? I mean, as a big media company, it's the one with the biggest, most recognizable brand. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it definitely is fair to say, and it's been around long enough to where it is not only become an American icon, but an icon worldwide.
Yeah, tell me what's going on in India.
Well, Disney's been moving aggressively into India. They purchased one of India's largest cable television networks that actually had 4 or 5 channels, and got into an agreement with some software companies, and then eventually bought them out. And now they have a Disney Channel there, and they're doing Disney Channel programs, but slightly changed to the Indian audience and spoken in Hindi and with Indian stars. The kids are Indian stars, and they're really making a point of trying to tap into one of the largest markets in the world, and they're becoming pretty successful at it. They've
Now, when you say tap in the largest markets, are they going across the board for the adult, for the adult viewer,
Yeah.
the teen, and
Yeah,
the...
instead of it just being a merchandise-driven type of relationship, which had been that way for years, everybody go get their Mickey Mouse watch or their shirt. Now it's in the TV, it's coming into the home. You have movie production that is owned by Disney, that they're doing Disney-produced movies and funded movies. And also in the game side and the internet side, those Indian software studios are pumping out an awful lot of stuff. And when you go to a Disney.com website, odds are you might be seeing an Indian coded site.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I do know that some of the other competitors to Disney, I think it's DreamWorks, they have, or there's starting to be some CG movies that are coming out of India. And
Yeah, part of this deal, actually, there's a CG studio attached to that, to the company that they ended up buying out, UTV, and major player in India.
well, what is the future of Pixar? Speaking of animated
That's a good
movies.
question.
I mean, I've seen two. What was it? There's two animated films that have just come out from Disney, and it used to say Disney Pixar, and now I just see Disney. Is Pixar gone?
No, Pixar isn't gone because Pixar is a really good name for Disney to throw around at the right time, just like Marvel is. Okay, look at Pixar, look at Marvel, look at what Disney's doing with those two franchises, and you'll see that there's an underlying strategy of leveraging their content, but making sure that people don't forget that it's Disney. So, like when you look at a copyright for a Pixar-produced graphic, it'll say copyright Pixar/Disney.
Okay.
Okay. They can still say copyright Pixar. It's still Disney, but they're coming out with a new Planes movie, which is a takeoff of Cars.
Right. I saw that.
That was originally going to go to video. They changed their mind with the success of Cars franchise, especially with the opening of the Cars Land in Disney's California Adventure in California. And
so now this is going to become a full feature film, and it's true. I think Cars was a great first film. Cars 2, a little bit different, maybe for a little bit more mature audience. I'm starting to see a lot more movies are more for. They're kind of dark. So I find hitting the fast forward button sometimes is appropriate when the kids are watching. But then it moves on to now we got Planes that's going to be coming out, and maybe we could talk about some more of the things that are coming up the pipeline.
I was an Imagineer during the Disney decade when Michael Eisner and Frank Wells were running the company.
Oh, golden years, yeah.
And I still remember we all came for every year they have a big employee event. Okay, where everybody comes and they sit down in one of the large sound studios, stage 2, I think it is, and Michael Eisner and then all the different department heads would come up and give their speech, and they did the preview of Roger Rabbit, and they showed the Roger Rabbit cartoon, which is in front of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Right.
And everybody was, their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe how different this was from what the old-timers were doing at Disney. They were breaking rules. They were doing things that were different. They were including...
What kind of rules?
Well, it was just not necessarily rules. There was nothing written in stone, But the movie included non-Disney characters.
Oh, and it also introduced, death. Let's just talk about that. That's kind of a big topic to bring into kids.
Well, they also made it across the board approachable and by the adult audience. Jessica Rabbit, was the first Disney cartoon sex symbol.
Really?
Well, when you think back about it, Disney company has changed in so many different ways through the years Now they have the adult product, they have the teen product, they have the kids product, they have the junior product. Your son turned 4 today.
Yeah.
You should be watching Disney Junior.
Right, Disney
Okay,
Junior.
right.
A lot of Doc McStuffins.
Yes.
Fix it, Dad.
And it's great. It's great content. You know, as part of my job, I see everything. I make a point of watching everything. I go to the parks. I see the new Disney Junior stage play. I just don't go and ride roller coasters. You know, I try to make a point of being able to bring to the public my thoughts about everything that's going on. And sometimes they do things wrong, and I'll call them on it. Bad show is what we used to call it.
Bad show.
Bad show. There's this group within Walt Disney Imagineering called Show Quality Standards, and also within the parks. And their responsibility was to make sure that the show, as people saw it, was being done correctly and looked right and wasn't out of character, okay? Because you place people into a narrative environment to tell a story. And if you put them in a story that's medieval, for example, and all of a sudden you have a spigot coming out of the wall, I'll use this for an example, it has no relationship to the storyline, okay? Yeah, you might need the spigot, but you got to hide it. You got to do something different with it, because what it does is it distracts from the story, and that's not appropriate. And still to this day, there's always going to be cases where, especially in the theme parks, where
Well, but
these things
everyone has
happen.
that. I mean, you know, when the new iPhone came out, it was dropping calls left and right, and people put up with it because they loved the iPhone so much that they wouldn't return it.
Yeah, but there's a
They kept
large
it.
Disney population of fans who will not and will say something because they expect it to be perfect.
Quality, yeah. And we're going to talk more about that. We have our Mark Hickson, our Disney police guy, watchdog. This is watchdog.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, we'll come right back after the break. Stay tuned. We're back. We're live, and you're listening to ThinkTech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress, and we're here with Mark Hickson. We're talking about looking into the looking glass with Disney. And but before we jump back to the conversation, Jay, do you have an announcement for our listeners?
Now that you ask, I do.
Oh, good.
Now that you ask, I certainly do. I want to make everybody aware that ThinkTech live streams all of its talk shows live on the internet. We put streaming video on Ustream and streaming audio on Spreaker.com. If you want to watch us live, these video and audio streams are available on our website. It's easy. Just go to our website, check them out at thinktechhawaii.com. Remember also, as Attila said, we have a gallery for a live audience in our downtown ThinkTech studio, and you can come down and be a member of that audience. You can pose questions to our guests. You can participate in the discussion right here, right now, right here at ThinkTech in Pioneer Plaza. To reserve your place, write to me, jay@fidel.com, or if you like, jay@thinktechhawaii.com. Thanks, Attila. Back to you. Back to you and Mark. Great show.
Oh, thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate it. Now, during the break, we were talking about something that seemed to come up a lot. Whenever you say that you used to work for Disney, I bet you everyone asks, how can I get a job there? So tell me, how can I get a job at Disney?
Well, there's two different answers to that. One is go work in any theme park. They're always hiring.
Oh, good. And do you have to put like a big thing on your head and wave to kids?
Very possible.
Oh, okay.
No, you will be in costume one way or another, but there's also a lot of backstage jobs. And then the Disney corporate hiring site always has positions to be filled throughout all the different divisions: Consumer Products Division, Disney Interactive, corporate, the film people, ESPN. There's so many different groups that are always consistently hiring either interns or senior staff and everything in between. Now, when I was an Imagineer, and when people ask, how do I become an Imagineer, that's a different answer. One is go to one of two of the best art schools in the country, either Cal Arts or the Art Center in Pasadena. But if you're not an artist,
Not Otis. Okay. All right. Good to know.
then you just have to be very, very lucky. It's there's no clear path to
that natural
getting
talent,
into the
yeah.
front door. Yeah.
And you mentioned, I mean, you don't work at Disney today. So how hard is it to stay at Disney even once you get hired?
Well, it depends upon what you do. You know, there's so many different career paths because it is the largest media company in the world, and it's multinational and it's multicultural too. Okay, so you might be getting hired for a job that's in a foreign country. For example, they're hiring theme park operations people through Disneyland International to help run the new Shanghai Disneyland that's in construction right now. Now, that might end up being a job that you keep for 20 years if you want to live in China and
Great food.
yeah, the worst smog in the world, but
Well,
we did an expose on that on Disney by Mark.
you know, compared to Hawaii, any place has got smog.
Yeah,
so-
that's right. But if you go over there and let's just say you're a technical person that is doing show lighting for some attractions, is very potential. If you don't have another job to go to within the Disney organization, you can get laid off. So, and the problem with Imagineering through the years was they went through really big ramp-ups of tens of thousands of people, and then when, let's say, after Epcot opened, they had to lay half the people off because they had nowhere else for them to go. So this kind of boom and bust cycle went through the company, and in many ways also on the film side. You know, if they're doing in-house production or if they're going to outside production, you know, houses. Of course, that industry you're working on going from project to project.
But you mentioned that Disney's biggest, you know, gold nugget is their quality and their consistency, right? And that's their brand. That's
Well,
everything, right?
Their brand is everything.
So can the average person get a job at Disney that would be a good living wage? We're not talking about, you know, digging a ditch. We're talking about, you know, creatively doing something where you're working on a project
Right.
of course the second half to that question is, how about in Hawaii?
Well, there's some that would argue that the wonderful cast members that work at Walt Disney World and in California don't make a living wage and have to either have supplemental income by having a second job or having a spouse that's working full-time or partner.
So does Disney not pay living wage? Or?
Well, I'd say there would be some that would argue that.
Oh, I see. What do you feel?
What do I feel? I'm very generous. I say give everybody a 10% raise because I'm a nice guy.
And if you had that checkbook, I'm sure you would give it to
There's enough money in the company to do that, believe me.
So you think that Disney could pay more, they just don't?
No, they're always looking at the bottom line. That's what modern day, you know, corporate cultures do. They always look at the bottom line, maximize profit, and for the sake of the shareholders.
So and Disney have they ever not turned a profit?
Oh, years ago, yeah. I mean, before. There were years that they definitely took a loss. They really took losses heavy in the, I believe, in the early 70s, and of course also during the war, World War II. If it wasn't for, because they had to stop doing regular production on making cartoons, and they ended up becoming an arm of the military to produce you know, films and product for training purposes and stuff like that for you know, World War II.
Yeah, I think everyone
to support
was doing
the effort. But that really put Disney in the they lost an awful lot of money during that period of time. No, there were some bad times, but
But they've also become successful due to their innovations, right? And one of them, I think we talked about, was something called keyframes. Now, keyframes, I don't know what that is. Why don't you tell me what that is?
I don't know what that is either.
Really?
Yeah, somebody else mentioned it.
Oh boy. Well, that's okay. What I gathered in my secret research is that keyframes led us to the modern video, and that's what we see in terms of our day-to-day video that we see on the screen. Disney innovated that.
Oh, you're talking about the technology.
The technology.
Oh,
This is ThinkTech Friday. We like to talk about
no,
technology.
yeah,
sometimes.
Okay, because excuse me, everything that Disney does is so broad that I'm going through the card file, trying to my internal Google search engine on that. I think they won an a Technical Academy Award on that.
Really?
Yeah, I believe they did.
Wow. Well, I mean, and it sounds to me like that continues, right? I think with Pixar, the new thing is that that their software has enabled them to pretty much switch everything away from hand-drawn animation. Is hand-drawn animation completely gone?
Oh no, I mean Paperman won an Academy Award, and that was hand drawn.
Well, let's talk about the future of Disney when we get back from the break. Those of you listening, stay tuned. This is ThinkTech Friday. We're live, and we'll be back after the break. We're back. We're back. We're live, and you're listening to ThinkTech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress, and we're here with Mark Hickson, and we're going into the looking glass with Disney. That's an Alice in Wonderland reference.
Yeah, you came up with that. It's pretty good.
Well, that was Jay, our wonderful founder. Thank you, Jay, for that great title. And you know, when we last left the conversation, we were talking about how animation has changed and the kind of movies that and the kind of media that we're to expect out of Disney is changing also. And one thing I didn't know is that all this stuff, all these Spider-Man characters and Marvel characters, what else is there? There's Captain America, there's Thor. They're all Disney. I had no idea.
They're all owned by Disney.
And so what do you see as coming down the pipe? I know there's no more Iron Mans, right? Is that true?
Well, yeah. Well, that kind of changes depending upon which Hollywood periodical you read.
Because Iron Man just came out last week, right?
Right.
And it's doing very well. It's supposed to be a good film,
Gwyneth
too.
Paltrow said that there's not going to be an Iron Man 4. But words are that Downey is negotiating a contract extension to cover the next movie. So
I
that's
wonder if
Hollywood.
he has any debt that he may need to pay off. You know?
That's Hollywood, and you know it's kind of like it's like the Johnny Depp story. You know, how many Pirates of the Caribbean can you make?
As many as people will go see. I think Harry Potter taught us that.
Yeah. Although I'm really looking forward to his portrayal as Tonto in The Lone Ranger, which is going to be released really soon. But you know, you have like these three major properties, and then there's a fourth one which started it all. The one that started it all, as far as Disney going out and buying content and buying properties, was with Jim Henson and the Muppets, and they ended up purchasing, you know, the Muppets, everything that wasn't owned by the Children's Television Workshop, the Sesame Street people.
Oh, really? So the Muppets are now owned by Disney also?
Right. Those Muppet movies are Disney-produced movies. There's a Muppet attraction at Walt Disney World, and you know, so they kind of primed the pump for these later on big acquisitions.
So Gonzo is competing with Mickey in the same company.
Yeah, Gonzo could end up with Mickey in the same frame, where where before that could have never happened. But then you have Marvel, big acquisition. Then you have LucasArts, yeah, George, you know, Star Wars.
All
Disney
that is
owns
owned-
that. Yeah.
All the Star Wars stuff is owned by Disney.
Yep, that was the big purchase last.
Oh, George Lucas must be loving that.
And yeah, well,
Just the distribution alone, wow.
well, they've announced, you know, they're going to be doing a new Star Wars movie every year.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's true.
So new Star Wars films are coming out.
Every year.
And when is that when is it supposed to take place? I mean, along the
Well,
this
they
huge
had
epic
one that
timeline.
was they had one that was close to starting pre-production when the sale happened. So they're just continuing on with that, and then they want to do some other Star Wars stories using characters that were not in the original Star Wars group of movies. Doing some side stories, different times, different places within the Empire, and
It's
doing
a universe.
doing a lot
You can't just close the book on a universe.
Well,
It doesn't exist.
No. Well, the thing is Disney has the momentum and the money to be able to go in and supercharge the effort. So it's just not going to be a new Star Wars movie. Well, for example, look at The Lord of the Rings. Okay,
Right.
that went out, and it was like you had to wait a couple of years for the next one to come out. And it's because they knew it was a finite.
You only had 4 books. That was it, yeah.
There's almost only so much content that they were able to rely on. Where Disney is with Marvel, they got over 100 characters.
Star Wars, same thing.
Star Wars, the same thing.
And they can make up new ones all day long. It wouldn't interfere with any of the existing
No.
storylines. Yeah.
No, not at all. And so Star Wars characters are in the parks right now, and they're big events. People love them, and they're accepting the fact that Darth Vader can be standing next to Mickey Mouse, even though those are really staged appropriately.
Yeah, it would probably be next to Jafar, next to the, or maybe the Beast next to Darth Vader. That would probably be a little bit more appropriate. But
Yeah. Well, they did this really cute video of a day in the park with Darth Vader, and he's got 2 stormtroopers with him, and he's riding on Dumbo, and he's standing at the side of a parade holding a balloon. So what they've done is they're making fun of the character to make him acceptable, so he isn't the evil person that's going to chop your arm off and destroy a planet.
Well, all they need is him turning on a Volkswagen with his remote control. When he leaves the park, right?
Only if they have a licensing agreement with Volkswagen.
I'm sure they could buy it. It's
Yeah,
Disney.
that's true.
It's Disney. So we have new. When do these Star Wars movies start coming out? And I'm excited now. I had no idea.
14, end of 14, yeah, next year.
Oh, so next year.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. And they can just keep rolling them out
Yeah.
because it's Disney.
yeah.
And how about in terms of animated films? I know there's another one coming out.
Well, Paperman, you asked about animated product earlier. Is it dead? No, Paperman proved that straight hand animation is still alive, and they won an Academy Award last year for that short film, animated film. As technology changes, content is going to adjust to that technology. But bottom line is, no matter what you use or how you use it, the story is the most important aspect of any of these products. And as long as you have a consistent and great storyline, you can
do
use
well.
anything. You could choose sock puppets to act it out.
And so sock puppet. So we can look forward to probably not sock puppet Darth Vader's and Luke Skywalker's or his descendants, and
Well, the Muppets actually are high-end sock puppets.
well, maybe
I
I'm
have
going to try
people
some
that will
socks
kill me
on.
for saying that. But
Well, and with that bombshell, we will wrap up our show because this was a really interesting show. Thank you for coming by.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Really do appreciate it. And if you missed any part of this program, be sure to visit our website. You can download the podcast of this show. You can check out Spreaker.com. And, of course, our website is ThinkTechHawaii.com. And, of course, if you liked our program, go ahead and like us on Facebook. And, of course, at the end, we'd like to send out our thanks to our Chief Engineer, Jack Waters, our Account Manager, Patrick Leonard, Board Operator, Leo Rodriguez, and Jay Fidel. He's the founder whose passion makes ThinkTech possible. We'll be back next Friday, but remember to appreciate life, do good to others, and have a great weekend. Aloha.
mahalo.